Wilson.
Here.
Mary Hanson.
Here.
Bill Goldsmith is here. Alana Courtney.
Here.
Larry Tuning.
Here.
Marjorie Austin.
Here.
Beth Justice is not going to make it this evening, but having a quorum, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are not going to need to go into closed session this evening, so could I have a motion to approve the, I guess we have to make an amend.
No.
Just amend the budget or the agenda
Yeah, as,
to not include a closed meeting?
So moved.
it's just on there if it's needed,
Okay,
so you can approve it.
okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any
Aye.
discussion, I guess I should say. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Moving on. The first thing we have is approval of a boatload of minutes. There have been some typographical errors that have been picked up and amended to include me being listed as major in one particular position. And for the record, I made it to petty officer third class, but never to major. And then there were some vote counts that were incorrect and some typos. But do we want to approve the minutes in bulk?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
do I
I'll make-
have
yes.
a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Any do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Having no discussion, can this be a voice vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Number 7 is a public hearing for Resolution 2025-003, proposed budget amendment. Mr. Costin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of council, ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing under the authority of 15.2-2507. At issue is Resolution 2025-003, amending the Town of Urbanna budget for fiscal year 2025 to reflect a capital obligation of $471,791 to acquisition or improvement of permanent town office space. Now, the background, the town received an allocation of approximately $475,000 in state and local fiscal recovery funds as a sub-recipient from the Commonwealth of Virginia under the American Rescue Plan Act, typically referred to as ARPA. As recently as March 27, 2024, staff took action to report to the state federal tracking authorities the following. $237,591 in ARPA funds was used for construction of the community swimming pool, which replaced a 60-year-old non-compliant, non-functioning pool, and $237,591 in ARPA funds would be used for the purchase of 390 Virginia Street, which was serving and still does serve as the town hall and administrative office space. On February 22nd, 2024, council approved purchase of the property and issuance of a note for the purchase thereof, which obligated the payment of funds by the town. The amount realized in net proceeds from the sale of the old town hall, approximately $234,200, would also be used for the purchase. So the fiscal impact that you have on adopting this resolution is really non-existent because this action just appropriates the funds that for the acquisition of the property. You've already budgeted this. It's just a matter of appropriating the funds. And this is really kind of, if you will, tying down the bow on the package with the federal and state authorities. We feel very confident, bond counsel feels very confident that the action done by staff when they made the report locked us in, but they just want to make sure the bow is nice and tight. I don't know how else to explain it to you.
Because you had to commit by December 31st.
Right.
And we view that action by the staff in March as that commitment, but we want to formalize that commitment with you all's action this evening. So the staff recommendation is actually to approve the resolution, and so your action would be to follow the staff recommendation as we've recommended, as does your bond counsel recommends. And you have a sample motion before you, and the resolution follows the agenda summary document. Be happy to take any questions you might have on the matter.
What December 31st?
Last December
2024.
24.
2024?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this should have been done last year.
Probably should have been done last year, but because of the action taken in March, we feel like, and nobody's come back to us.
Right,
That's the
okay.
other thing. Nobody's come back to us and said, hey, you didn't check the box, you know.
So this is money we got from the rescue plan.
Yes.
When do we get it?
We got it 2 years
Year or
ago.
two ago?
2 years?
2022.
2022.
And where is the money? Is it somewhere earning money?
It's sitting in the general fund reserves.
It's in the it was removed from a high interest bearing when we were supposedly going to purchase, and then that didn't happen, and then we were gonna purchase it. So we did not tie those funds up with any kind of penalty, so currently it's in the operating account,
Which means it gets nothing?
basically.
It was getting something moved out in anticipation, and now it's just,
Right. I think we earned what, like $7,000 or
quite a
something
bit,
on it
yeah.
while it was in high interest stuff.
I don't know, I won't assume the amount.
Right. It was earning at like 5%.
Yeah, it was a
for
lot.
a couple of years, and then we pulled it when that CD
Right.
closed. It didn't put it into another one.
Thinking we were going to use the money.
Correct.
Money for the building, yes.
It makes sense.
Yep.
All right. So
thank you.
is the public hearing open, or is,
Yes.
all right, do we have anyone that has made any public comment?
No one has signed up for the public hearing. No one signed up for the public hearing.
All right, with nobody, then I can close the public hearing,
Yes.
correct? Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution 20?
I'll make the motion for, I move to approve Resolution 2025-003, amending the Town of Urbana's FY25 budget and appropriating all remaining ARPA funds and the funds from the sale of Old Town Hall to the purpose of acquisition of the property.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, motion is moved and seconded. Any discussion? Being a resolution, we should probably take a voice vote, right?
Yes, sir.
All right?
He means roll call.
Yes, roll call, that's what I mean. I'll do it. Okay. Marjorie Austin,
Yes.
Larry Tuning,
Yes.
Alana Courtney,
Because I'm so vehemently opposed to the purchase of this building, my answer is no.
Mayor says yes. Mary Hanson?
Yes.
Robbie Wilson?
Yes.
All right. Motion passes, so what would that be? 5-1. All right. Moving on to the next is reports.
And good evening again. So, in my report as town administrator, looking at activity in January, committee meetings were held for finance and water. Of note concerning those two topics is the collection effort concerning delinquent accounts, which is attached. So if you turn to the next page, you see kind of the summary and a walkthrough of where we started and where we are. So I'm just going to hit a couple of highlights. According to the Hampton Roads Sanitation District, as of 1/2/25, Urbanna had $66,338.07 in delinquencies. This was water and sewage combined. As of February the 5th, 2025, that number is now down to $26,365.40, which remains delinquent. So we've dropped about $40,000. That's as a result of collections, voluntary collections. We've had folks that, I say word on the street, and they came in and paid their bill before they got noticed up. and adjustments where the adjustments were warranted. Out of the 20 notices that have been sent out, a total of 3 shut-offs have been completed, one of which was actually requested by the account holder. Moving on, the top 5 item of concern, exercise, I think that went very well, and largely due to you all's the council taking it seriously, so I appreciate that. So a summary is attached for tracking purposes, and if you go back to page 11 of 35, you'll see your top 10 priorities. And I'd like to just kind of tie what I said earlier to your priority number 2. Trying to get money for the water system is going to be a lot easier because of some of the things you all are doing. One of which is you're supporting the delinquency collection. Okay, so it looks like to somebody that we're asking for money, will we take care of your money? Yeah, because we're taking care of our money. And second is the reduction in closing the gap between the out-of-town rate and the in-town rate. We did about 50% last year. We're going to probably have to do about 50% again this year to close that gap. But that's kind of how what we're doing now with the delinquencies will actually help us position ourselves for grant competition. January brought in some winter weather, which had to be monitored and dealt with. We had 1 day of closure due to snow and 1 delayed opening due to loss of power. I was able to return to the Friends of Urbanna Memorandum of Understanding issue, and that's going to be before you later this evening. We also received the annual stewardship report from the Department of Historic Resources, and we were found to be fine with that. I again met with state and local interest regarding Main Street, and also again met with the young man that's working on his Eagle Scout project undertaking the kayak launch. I'm going to have to engage in that to represent the property owner as the benefactor of the project, and I'm working on actually securing the nationwide permit so we can go forward with that. I completed a questionnaire from the Department of Conservation Resources as to whether or not we were still in compliance with the terms of a grant from fiscal year '01 regarding the use of the town's marina. This was a grant used to help purchase the marina. All indications are that we are in compliance. The well project is progressing, but will be delayed due to supply chain issues involving the electrical upgrade portion of the project. There are some weather setbacks as well. Pressure testing on the system was successfully performed. Middlesex County did receive the energy grant, but contingent on changes. The most notable change is the funds cannot be used for municipal facility audits. And that was really the reason we got into it. And so I've put them on notice that we're not going to actively engage in that grant, but we'd be happy to post any notices or host any meetings that they might want to do for the residents and the businesses in Urbanna. The Virginia Street terminus remains barricaded and signed as no parking. A meeting with VDOT was held, but scheduling the shoreline contractor has been a challenge. The mayor and I met with the swim team to coach to review last year's program and consider overall management for next year. Recruitment for staff is underway. What I'd like to recommend is that your next work section actually be on the pool. So in 2 weeks, we meet and discuss everything from pool rules to operational management, everything, concession stand, the whole works. And that is my report. I'll be happy to take any questions you all have.
I have a question on, I don't know which item, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the bottom. It's the question on DCR and compliance, that the grant was used to help purchase the marina.
That's what we understand, yes.
So that goes way back.
Yes,
Okay, we're not talking 2001.
we're talking 2001.
Oh, 2001.
Yes.
Oh, 2001.
Yes,
Okay.
fiscal year 2001.
Okay.
But that's still 24 years.
Yeah, that's a long time. I just wanted to make sure I was reading it
They,
right.
they,
Okay.
they have a hook in you for that project.
For how long? In
I-
perpetuity?
Pretty much in perpetuity, yeah.
Okay,
Same
that's
thing with the museum property.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
There's a recorded easement on that property where they can come in and kind of make sure that we haven't painted the shutters pink or something like that.
Oh, I see.
Yep.
Okay.
So we can't sell it if we wanted to?
I don't know. I'd have to get in to look at the deed, the restrictive on what limitations were imposed when that grant was accepted. Yeah.
You would want to sell the museum?
I think she's talking the marina.
Talking about the marina.
Oh, okay. But you'd want to sell the marina?
don't think we should be in the business of trying to run a business. I think we're in the business of trying to spend taxpayers' money, and I never can get a full accounting of the marina, so it doesn't seem to really be doing much, and it's not in great shape. So my
Actu-
feeling is,
actually,
let
it's-
somebody buy it that'll.
Actually, that's making money for us.
Yeah.
It was an income earner
Yeah,
last year.
that's making money for us.
Well, I've just been told that the numbers kind of get moved around, so it makes sense. So I don't really know what the story is.
I hope we're not moving numbers around and they're accurate.
Yeah, that's a pretty serious accusation, and considering I'm the treasurer, are you accusing me of something?
I'm not accusing you of anything, but I will say, when I asked you about it one time, I said, how does the numbers come out to the penny? And you said, well, sometimes we just kind of move things around. That was what you said. So I didn't,
The-
I mean, I'm not accusing you of doing anything dishonest. My main concern is the taxpayers and the money,
And-
and I'm concerned about the marina because it's not in great shape, and it takes a lot of money to get in great shape. We don't have that money.
As a point of clarification, if I may, when it comes to creating a budget, you're required to have the numbers match to the penny when you present the budget as to exactly what you think you're going to get and exactly what you think you're going to spend. And is what you have to present, and those things have to match to the penny. So when the treasurer says sometimes you have to move things around, it's because you know what your relative expenses are on a regular basis for running those things, and you have a guesstimate of what your income is going to be. And so when you're creating those budget lines, you have to present something that is going to match exactly, because that's your requirement. The actuality of what occurs is going to be close because you can't predict how many boats are going to come in and how much it's going to cost you for electricity. But at the end of the day, you will see where you had budget shortfalls or where you had a surplus, and that's what audits and accounting are all about. And so you're talking apples and oranges when you compare the two issues, because the budget as presented has to match to the penny.
So, to expand on the mayor's observation, when you're budgeting, your revenue has to match your expenditures. When you're operating the budget and you're carrying out the budget, if you have a situation where, okay, we're going to buy 20 widgets this year, but we found out we only needed to buy 10, that means you've got more in your expense category than you're actually going to need. So now maybe the whatsits, you needed more whatsits than you did widgets. And so you can slide that money over because you're in the same category. You're in the same category of expense. I'd also add that the ultimate determination here is what the auditor finds, and the auditor hasn't found any irregularities. So, any other questions?
Yeah, the kayak trail.
Mhm.
That is in a sequence. So where you started, we can change numbers, but I'm gonna need to know where you're gonna start it, so that I can work with the planning district commission.
So where we're looking at trying to place it is away from the boat ramp and go up to the other side of the flagpole.
That's where the committee had indicated they wanted it.
That's,
mean the
that's
north
cut,
side?
the north side.
North side.
The north side, yeah.
And also, that's where the first one is, so that would be a good thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it can be changed. I mean,
That's a
Yeah.
good place for it.
And I didn't know it was that specific. I thought it was just, oh, it's the marina. But if it's specific to the north end of the marina, then that's where we're heading to.
yeah.
And remember that Main Street is still willing to do signage when you get to that point.
Well,
I'll
I
let-
think that's what he's working on.
I'll let the Eagle Scout candidate know that, and he'll come to you.
Okay, okay.
I think council will get to see what he's gonna do.
Okay. Yeah, he's still in the design phase
Yeah.
of it.
I think
Yeah.
it's great.
Oh, definitely.
That's good.
Any other questions? Before I step down, I just want to take a moment. I want to thank you all very much for the condolences and sympathies you expressed to me, my family, and the staff as well. Recent passing of my mom, and as Dan Aykroyd once said, "But wait, there's more." I also want to thank you for your support and understanding as I've recently gone through gallbladder surgery. So I'm recovering.
Was that arthroscopic?
Yeah, I can't eat a double cheese pizza just yet, but I'm working on it. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ted.
I'm glad you're
I'm
doing
not gonna
well.
laugh.
You did.
Don't laugh, you'll be next.
I upset him with last.
Okay, moving on to the treasurer's report.
Good evening, everybody. The treasurer's report was included in your packet. There's nothing that I have to add to this report. I do have some other updates, but does anyone have any specific questions in regards to the report?
I don't.
The difference in the Tabor Trust from 11:30 to 12:31 was just the stock market, right? That's just
Correct.
Yes.
Fluctuate.
Meals tax is holding up.
Yes.
Lodging, not so.
Lodging not so. Lord, I tell you, the streets are full
I know it.
in the evening.
But the lodging is significantly higher than it was the prior December.
Correct. And with reporting, sometimes when you go after delinquent folks, or what will happen, it's due the 20th. So sometimes your bigger companies, your Airbnbs, your HomeAways, I will receive the check and it's dated for the 20th, which we accept the postmark, but I don't actually receive it until the next month. So I post it the day I received it, then it matches the bank account. I try to keep it's same thing with like water. I get a report that says water was paid today, but the ACH will take 2 days. So I post that water payment the day it hits our bank account. I don't count my chickens before they're hatched. I have to have money in hand. So that's sometimes why, especially lodging tax may vary, or it might also have been a delinquency that I finally got to pay. But in this behalf, I think it's more the delay with the holidays and all. It just came in later.
Well, it's also December too. It's low season here.
I'm not looking at it, but my thought is we're doing a lot better on lodging than we were doing 4 or 5 years ago. Is that true?
Yes, because of all the Airbnbs.
Are you hearing, are you getting what you're supposed to be getting from all the Airbnbs?
We're working on those. We have a few. We're narrowing the list. That's all. It's getting smaller.
What about all the ones at the marina? Not our marina, but the other marina?
It's in process. I've spoke to him. He's been in here, and Ted and I had communications. So we're moving forward in that area.
Thank you.
In regards to some of your questions, if you need to know something, that's what you need to do is come ask me. Robbie is now on the finance committee, and I had a good conversation with him and tried to tell him, if you need to know something specific, I can print a revenue and expense for a marina, certain departments, like we did for the pool. Just ask or send me an email, and I will be happy to get you specific information if you need it.
Would you do one for me for the marina? Please, thank you.
Okay. As far as my the rest of my report goes, that real estate delinquent tax bills were mailed in January. We collected tax and released one lien on a property, so we finally got them. Collected on 4 other properties. Currently, there's 13 accounts that remain past due. I'm in the process of preparing certified mail for 4 accounts. 2 of those accounts are already currently have a 2-year lien, and I'll be placing the additional 2-year lien. The other 2 accounts will be their first time lien. Total outstanding right now on real estate is $12,032. Now,
Let me ask a question. You said that there's somebody that's getting a second time lien on their home for water?
No, for real estate
real
tax.
estate, okay,
Real estate.
sorry.
So once you hit the 2-year mark, we put a lien on you. Well, now they're 4 years. So I will take the difference of the first lien to where they are now and lien them for that
Second amount.
second amount.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you. I'm sorry, I was.
That-
So would
that's
those
a-
be two separate liens, or it's now a
It-
larger lien?
It's two separate liens. Let's see. Total outstanding amount was about 12,032. That's a moving number. If somebody pays or if there's no payments, then additional principal and interest will be added to that figure. In regards to personal property, the delinquent bills were mailed for those at the beginning of this month. I did have a few payments trickle in. In process of writing off, there's approximately about $900 in accounts that are 5 years or older, and I literally finished them this afternoon. So they are completely taken off the books. A lot of them had return mail. There was flags on them. There's potentially, they could have DMV stops through the county, but at this point, the code says if it's more than 5 years to get rid of them. At this point, they're costing us money. So the accounts were zeroed out as a write-off. They're flagged that they were a write-off, and in the notes, the day I did it and the amount that they would owe if there someday would be any chance of recovering those funds. As far as return mail under 5 years and not eligible to be written off, we have about $675 outstanding. There's just no way for me to contact the customer due to the return mail, no phone numbers. Try to research them down, but they've moved on and I just don't know. So the total outstanding is approximately $13,467 of personal property tax. Personal property tax. Again, DMV stops were placed for prior year. Once we get through this delinquency notice in March, I will send an updated list, and Holly over at the county will help me put the DMV stops on. Talked to Ted some today and been talking to Mary Bell. I would like to try and pursue doing our own DMV stops. So once the dust settles with all the collection of the water and the aftermath of taxes, we're going to check into that and see if it's feasible for us to do it ourselves. And as a reminder, I did not bill anyone with a tax bill of $2 or less. When I added those up, the grand total was under $50. But if their bill was 41 cents, it cost me, not me, but cost the town 69 cents to send it in the mail. It just doesn't make sense. So they were all just abated off. And according to the state code, local tax officials are eligible in the treasurer's office to not bill if it's $20 or less. So we're doing $2. We're well within the code. For our 23-24 audit, well, as you know, it's still underway. I had a telephone conversation and reviewed some transactions with the auditor. All journal entries reviewed pertain to the pool. Later, I completed with the assistance of Edmonds the suggestions to just move money within the pool, but she wanted them categorized differently. All that has been completed, along with, she also requested some documentations for expenses because the expenses were so high. So at this point, I'm just waiting on further instruction from her, if any, in regards to the audit. Due to the town's debt with the well project and all, there's been an increase in the information requested from us. So we just comply as she requests. The next thing I would like to talk about is the Urbanna Post Office is celebrating 250 years. It was one of the first 69 U.S. post offices in operation on July 26, 1775, and Benjamin Franklin was appointed the first postmaster general. 15 of the original post offices in 1775 were located in Virginia, one being right here in Urbana. So this year, for the golf cart stickers to start the celebration, and I need these back because you don't get a free one. You gotta get these.
Come on.
Yeah, that means you have to have a golf cart first.
Oh, that's nice.
We'll honor by
Larry.
Heart attack if you saw the post office today.
So I would like you all to think about, and Ted and the mayor and I have already spoke a little bit, we need to do something special to celebrate That's an
I say go with
awesome
it, if we can say that now.
250 years here in Urbana. In pertaining to golf carts, the golf cart applications have been updated along with all the supporting documentation that is mailed. Yesterday, Mary Bell helped me, and we stuffed them all, and they're out there in a box. They're just waiting for postage to hit the mail on March 1st. The Hometown Heroes banners are well underway. This will be the last year for the military specific. And as a reminder, the deadline is April 11th. I would very much appreciate if you can speak, talk it up out in the town. We get the streets full. Just help spread the word. But maybe next year will be community heroes or your favorite pet. I'm not sure, or if it will be anything at all. But the military, this is the last year. And the only other thing that I could think of was the mayor and I have spoke, and we requested the $30,000 from Davenport to support the donations to the Middlesex Fire Department, the Middlesex County Library, and the Middlesex Volunteer Rescue Squad. So the funds have been requested but not yet received.
I have a question.
Sure.
On the liens, you've got 2 properties that now have 2 liens. How long do we lien them before we do a tax sale? Does it have to be a certain amount of liens, or how does that work?
That would be our,
There's no policy on that. The lien remains in place until the property is sold.
So they can just keep not paying and then just keep getting liens? Wow.
um,
Yeah, you can.
yeah,
But
we,
we don't- What I'm saying is that we don't have a policy about at what point something goes to delinquent, or foreclosure sale.
Because the county does have that.
correct. Now, if they are also delinquent with the county, and the county moves forward with a sheriff's sale, we're sitting in a pretty place because we have our lien in place. If we did not place the liens, it would be possible we would not receive anything.
Right. But with no policy or procedure or whatever you would call it, my brain's not working. We just keep adding a lien. I mean, hell, they could have 10 liens and owe quite a bit of money, and we're still out that money.
The other thing is that we should probably partner with Middlesex on this, because when they go to sell the property, we might have a lien, but since they're bringing the action, sometimes you don't get as much money as you think.
Right.
So they're gonna get paid first.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's probably something that should be looked into. Instead of, we just can't go with just leaning people for, into oblivion, and still not getting the money.
I know that from the treasurers' conferences, there's several. One is TAC. I'm trying to,
TCS.
Yeah,
Yes.
TACS, that's who Middlesex uses.
correct,
Yeah,
and
it would make sense for us to partner with Middlesex. We don't have enough, I don't think, to.
Yeah.
To do our
I
own.
agree
Yeah.
with that.
yeah, I
Yes,
was going
yes.
to say from the conferences, and my understanding is we're just not large enough to do it on our own.
Absolutely,
Correct.
absolutely. So, yeah, I think that would be a good idea to partner with the county.
And how do we go about
Yeah, what
doing
does that
that?
mean, partnering?
Talk to the county.
You could reach out to maybe the Middlesex treasurer.
Yeah, call Tracy.
See what she has to say.
Yeah, thank you.
And any other questions for
Yeah,
me?
Not a question, but just a point for the future, and be thinking about this. Middlesex County is either gonna reassess in 2025 or 2026. They haven't decided yet. But we need to be thinking about that and using that as a tool as to revenues, speaking of revenues down the road. And if it happens in 2026, I'll be around to remind us that
To take out the nonprofits?
take out the nonprofits. But if I'm not around, if it happens, if they reassess in 2026, I probably won't be there in 2027. So please remember to take out the nonprofits.
That's one that, as long as I'm here, I will definitely
I know you-
remember that.
I know you will, but I'm gonna keep bringing it up.
There you go.
Oh, yeah,
Because
absolutely.
it actually happened once when you weren't here,
Okay.
and then once when you were here.
Okay.
And I was here both times, so I think it was more my fault than it was anybody else not to catch it, but I didn't catch it, so.
Well, and in fairness too, when the file came in, it was just numbers. It was map numbers, and unless you went line by line, there was no coding on it at that time.
The problem was we set the tax rate on the total amount of the value of land in the town.
Right.
Right,
And we shouldn't have. We should have set it on total amount minus non-profits.
correct. Right. But
Am I correct?
when
Total amount tax.
when the file though came in, we absolutely did not know that.
Did not.
So now we know when we request the file that those said properties be removed
Right.
from the amount.
So we actually have had lower taxes or real estate tax revenues partially because of that. not
Right.
totally.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
All right. Town clerk.
On my report, I went through some of the projects that I've completed. I went through our website and logged all the changes needed, and the town administrator and I are working on providing a big list to Mr. Lipscomb. I'm currently still reviewing the town code draft from Unicode, and I've gotten all my questions and actions that they had recommended kind of pulled out so that you all can review those. I spoke with the Unicode representative and we developed a plan. Basically, the project was initiated and paid for in 2021. And so everything that they have is based on that date. What I suggested to him, just to keep everything clean, is we are going to pretend like it's 2021. And that's where we're going to work on this project. Then once it's finished, then we'll work on getting everything from 21 to 24 updated. Because that would incur another cost to have them codify it. I've created binders for you all, and I was waiting to get the code in there, but I think I'll just give you your binders next meeting anyway. And I met with Middlesex County Administration for introductions and relationship building. So we're still working on those, the website, the Unicode plan. I've been going through all of the past minutes and recording every single motion, action, resolution, and ordinance that council has passed over the years so that we can try and get it all in one nice list. So when somebody says, hey, when did such and such happen, we can search and find it very easily. I went to the International Institute of Municipal Clerks Region 2 conference from January 21 to 24th in Henrico. And I found it really beneficial. They had sessions on leadership training. The one they did about building relationships with community stakeholders was really eye-opening in who they identified as community stakeholders, and the things that they're doing in Henrico are just awesome. Then we talked about media relations ethics and situational awareness and safety. So I've completed all my assessments and turned them in on Tuesday, so I'll get my credit for that. And we learned that the next conference is going to take place virtually. So does anybody have any questions on anything?
No, but I would like to tell you that you did an awesome job on the minutes.
Thank you.
They're very
Yes, thank you.
understandable, and you can just tell from that what has that what happened in the meeting, not just bits and
Right.
pieces. So
Thank you.
this has really been a eye opener. Thank you.
And I want to thank you for going back over past minutes and sorting all of the actions and decisions one of my concerns, I don't know, 3 years ago or so, was I thought that when we passed a motion allotting funds to a particular something or other, that it was somehow earmarked, and that's not the case. And so the idea of not knowing how much we've actually agreed to spend on things, whether it's been obligated or not, was, a concern. So this will make that a lot easier to track, so thank you.
My recommendation too is if it has anything to do with money or something that you really want the public to pay attention
Yeah.
to, do a resolution, because they're more likely to look at that than to going through and read your minutes, so. And when you put money in a resolution, it's very easy to find.
Yeah,
So-
interesting, interesting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to committee reports, we'll start with personnel.
Okay. Personnel Committee met during the month of January. I don't remember what date, or was February? Was it a week ago Wednesday?
Yes.
It was a week ago Wednesday.
It was a week ago Wednesday, and so that would have been, yeah, that's right. And we are in the process of
It's the 5th.
finalizing performance of the 5th, thank you, Larry, February 5th. And we're in the process of finalizing staff performance evaluations and the performance evaluation on TED. And so that's what we're doing at this time, okay? I think we're pretty close to being done.
Okay. Water Committee. Water Committee met on January 16th. Marjorie Austin was not in attendance and thus was designated as the chair. Maribel Kimball presented the current status of the water accounts. Some of this stuff dovetails with the administrator report as well as the treasurer's report. But that was part of the discussion, was the delinquent accounts. The Bethpage Water Service Agreement is still hanging up with their corporate body. At some point, I'm sure we'll get that done, but it would be the first time ever, so that will be a major accomplishment when it occurs. At least we have a policy now that gives us abilities to do things following just the state code. But anyhow, well number 6 project, as was mentioned, that has been delayed because of supply chain issues, but it is still moving forward and will get completed. Steve Hutton, Maribel Kimball, and Dave Overman, who's a committee member, attended a cartograph training. That's a system of tracking that the town has owned for a while now, that we have decided to keep going with, and that is an asset management tool that allows us to track when equipment was changed, when pipes were replaced, when different items were put into use, and that has the benefit in that you give us, the way we've done in the past, if something breaks, you'd have to go through the filing system and hope that you could find the invoice that told you when you replaced that fire hydrant. And this is something that potentially could make it a little easier to do that. And then last, as again was mentioned, there were discussions about the water rates. If you read the paper today, you can see that we're at roughly $83 for out-of-town rates and $49 for in-town rates, I think, and Middlesex is at $110, and the people that are on the Aqua system are at $135. So we're still considerably cheaper than what they are, and we need to close that gap over time for access to even long-term loans, because the feeling is if you're not charging rates, you've got plenty of places you can get money from that you're not using. Why would we lend you money? So, at any rate, that wraps up the Water Committee
Can I
report.
ask a question?
Yes.
About Cartograph, in Cartograph, can't you also, make notes or schedule in the system routine maintenance and those kinds of things so that
Yep.
it'll actually flag it so you don't forget?
You
Yes.
absolutely
Or
can.
overlook that
Yep.
something should be
Yes.
done?
You can.
So I
And-
think another benefit of that.
And you can
that
do the same
program.
thing with, you can put in modules for equipment, so it could,
Yeah.
you know, go to the bucket truck, to the other pieces of equipment, to routine maintenance for AC systems. There's a lot of things you could do.
Okay.
So it's a fairly powerful tool.
Good.
The hope is that there will be enough interest that we'll start using it since it's there. Because if used, I had an accountant once that said if you create a monster, you have to feed it. And in this case, we have to start feeding it so that we can actually have a database that we can deal with. The work that was done by AH Environmental all those years ago, that information was loaded into the system. So there's some stuff that's preloaded in terms of sizes of pipes, ages of different pieces of equipment, and that sort of thing. Bill Smith was very good about loading in the different fire hydrants, what the manufacturer was, and those kinds of things. But yes, the answer is yes.
Good.
So the fire hydrants, when they were last exercised, is in there too, when the,
I don't think that made it in because it was since that stuff was all entered.
So it needs
Because
to
we
be
just, we
updated.
So
just
that
had
needs-
some of it.
Needs to be caught up.
Yes.
so that
Cinder
needs
just did
to be
that
put in?
recently.
The fire hydrants were pressure tested since I've been here. Whether or not that test was recorded, because we didn't know it was going to happen when it happened.
Right.
Right.
Whether or not that was recorded, I don't know. That would be something that Maribel and Steve could approximate a date on and drop it in there.
Okay, I'll ask, I can ask Maribel.
Just historically, a reason our water rates are so low is tied to the fact that we had sewer. And we had no control over whether sewer went up or down because it belonged to Hampton Roads.
Right.
So many times we got caught in this corner where they would raise it, and we'd say, well, we don't want to do that to the town folk. But things have changed, particularly with getting loans and grants. So we've had to relook at all that. But that's one of, not the only reason, but is one reason that
Right.
the rates are as low as they are what they are. Let's put it that
Right.
way.
Right. And that was something that, going back at this point, probably five plus years, it was a recognition, particularly with Bill Smith when he was on the committee, that we needed to close that gap and start picking up on this stuff because it was obvious that we hadn't backlogged the funds that we needed to get some of this stuff and to give us that buffer that we could afford those loans, if and when we got them.
And I agree with that.
And we're moving in that direction. And so the bottom line is that there will be another increase coming, and at the next meeting, we'll probably discuss based on information from the Draper-Aden report, as well as verifying what the current rates are for the county and for Aqua, what an appropriate bump would be.
To
And
fix
we
these-
also need to close that gap
Yeah.
between in town and out of town.
And to fix these pipes, we're gonna need access to cheap money.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so in order to do that, this is part of what we have to do that, like it or not. I don't
Correct.
necessarily like it.
Right.
Yeah.
But I feel like we have to do
Yeah,
it.
there's probably going to have to be a real estate increase too, tax increase to work on that, unfortunately.
That has
So-
nothing to do with water.
So is that because the town has kicked the can down the road for so long that now we gotta raise taxes?
We're not raising
Well,
taxes.
It's the
no,
water
it's not a raising tax.
It's a tax increase, come on, guys.
No, it's that,
for use.
water rates
Sell
are a
water
completely different thing from a tax. Water rates are for paying for a service. You know, well, you can make the same argument that when you go to the dentist, you're being taxed. Because a utility is
Is a separate
a
fund.
separate, it's a separate tranche of
understand
money. So,
No one has mentioned a tax increase other than what I heard right there. But
Right.
I'm not saying it's not gonna happen, but
I was just saying
but yes.
down the road, we're probably going to have to do that.
well, one of the things about this reassessment,
coming.
it may be tied to a reassessment
Right.
Right.
versus us raising we may have to raise the rate, but I mean, there are ways we can do this that the county does it all the time. the user fee
But
assessment too.
that would be in finance. This is water, so,
I'm sorry. Sorry.
and that's coming.
I was just,
But in answer to your question, yes, just because of what Mr. Tuning said, the sense of councils historically, going back a decade and before, was that Hampton Roads was raising the rates, and they didn't want to put it on the populace to raise the water rate, even though the public perception was when those rates went up, it was the water rate that was going up. So the town took the heat, even though HRSD was the only one raising their rates. And so as of about 5 years ago, we just started trying to close that gap so that we were charging a competitive rate. And there are organizations out there, the major one being a group, I think they're out of Richmond, Draper Aden, that publishes small municipality water rates so that you know where you are compared to other organizations. And that's something that we've been tracking. I think I last presented it about 6 months ago, the most recent one to the Water Committee last year. But it's something that's readily available online.
the county was able to get low-interest loans because the per capita income of the entire county is not so high. But the highest per capita income in Middlesex County is not Pine Top, it's Saluda District. And Urbanna is part of that. And so we're not eligible
Correct.
for some of these loans that the county, I'm sorry, the Middlesex Water Authority was able to get.
Right.
I did make a feeler, and this is a little bit just on my own. I reached out to VACO. I saw them present at the VML conference and said, this is literally just a feeler. I'm just curious. What can you all do for us? And they part of VML, they act like an agent for you in a lot of ways. They'll go to different funding sources, commercial banks, in this case, VRS. And I actually kind of unexpectedly got a quote back from them yesterday in an engagement letter. As an organization, and I haven't committed us in any way, they'll look at our ability to borrow and tell us how much we could borrow and then where to go for funding sources and help us apply. But he actually sent me a slideshow, and I can distribute it to council. And I haven't, just like I said, because it was a feeler on my part. Right now, rates are 4.3% through VRS, and the term, I think, was 30 years, is about as long as we can go. So on $8 million, that's quite a payment amount. We can't
Right.
swing it. But money is cheap, and it seems like it's available. So,
Right.
anyway, if anybody's interested, I'd be glad to forward you the email.
Please.
Yes, please.
All right, moving on to finance. I agreed to take that one. Robbie Wilson was designated as chair with respect to that. He, as you can see, is already reaching out to different people for funding sources and whatnot. But we met for the first time, we've met twice, actually. First one was January 16th, 2025. Prior to that meeting, Mr. Costin and I had a meeting with Delegate Hodges, and one of the things we discussed was DMV Select and what a flawed business model it was. And in this current session, he was said that he was going to track that down because he didn't realize, and I'm sure most people don't, that there's no place that really makes money on DMV Select. I shouldn't say no place. A mineral in Louisa County makes money, but they're really shaking and moving to get that done. And in talking to other locations, they're not coming close. They just take it as a
Community
a community loss and a community benefit. Anyhow, moving on, the Davis Accounting Group was once again engaged for the audits. The 22-23 audit is complete, but we engaged them for 23-24. And as the treasurer pointed out, that's a work in progress, and the requirements are getting a little more stringent because of the fact we do have a debt now. We did make the decision to remove Sandy Sturgill, who's no longer on council, away from being an account signer, and added Robbie Wilson as the finance chair and Marjorie Austin, the water chair, as signers to go along with Michelle as treasurer has to be there, but she doesn't sign the checks. routinely Maribel Kimball and myself as the signers for the different checking accounts that we've got. On the 16th meeting, Marnie Hart was not present, and so we tabled discussions on the Tabor Fund, but Robbie Wilson did volunteer to look at the town's current fee schedule and try to collate what these fees were so that we can review them and have all the fees in one place so we can look at them in the future and make sure that they are reasonable and not arbitrary and capricious. Then the Finance Committee met again on 2/10. Those account signers have been put into place. I mentioned the Davis Accounting Group and the increased requirements. Marnie Hart was there, and so we had a discussion about the Tabor Fund. The Tabor Fund, the way it's written, there are not distinct guidelines as to what you can take and when you can take it and whether you replenish it or not. And we felt as a council that it should be there for the benefit of the townspeople, but that if we take large portions, as we did for the pool, that we figure out some guidelines to determine when we can take that, what it's going to require in terms of council vote to get that done, and how we can repay it or replenish it before we use it again. And those things are not in place, but that is something that Marnie Hart is working on as a member, and she will present those guidelines. She gave us a rough idea and gave us some feedback, but she's going to put it into to a document for us to review at the next meeting, probably. We got initial proposals for pool operations from Signature Pools again this year, and some proposals from the Middlesex Makos, the swim team, and we're making an effort to work with and get more local involvement and options to increase the membership usage and community involvement. There are revised contracts pending because of some changes that needed to be made in terms of hourly rates. And then the Middle Peninsula Planning District Commission sent their bill for dues. In reviewing that, the Middle Peninsula Planning District Commission, as we call it, the MPPDC, which I can now say, does have a lot of good things that they do in terms of dredging and providing for wells and septic systems that are failing and those things. A lot of the stuff that they do is not pertinent to Urbanna because we are not in need of, having a water system and a sewage system. They don't give us the benefit that they would otherwise. And there's a lower rate for towns, but there's also some question as to why we at 450 people would be paying the same rate that Tappahannock would pay, for example. And so Mr. Costin, in looking at the breakdown of what things we could participate in not, has offered to go back to Louis Lawrence and ask him which things we can cut out of there to lower our expense, because they do provide us with access to grant writers, and there are certain things for compliance in terms of shoreline things and floodplains that they're very helpful in allowing us to join them so that we don't have to do the work ourselves. So there is real benefit there, but the attempt is going to be made to pay for those things that we use and not for things that we get no benefit from.
And it's not just about, I mean, you're probably gonna tell me I'm wrong, but it's not just about benefit to the town.
Exactly.
They do a great deal of things benefit for town citizens in regards.
Oh, yeah,
that's
absolutely.
beyond that.
There's public water access, the Public Access Authority, there's all kinds of things that they do. And the town, I think, I'm not saying that we need to get out, but there's certain things, like their initiatives for well and septic are less important to the people in town than they are to all of the county, because the county, as a general rule, is sinking, and they've got hundreds of wells and hundreds of septic systems that are just teetering on the brink of failure. And so they do an incredible job for them.
Yeah, this is one council member that would certainly not be in favor of getting out of it.
Oh, no, the
Yeah,
discussion
second.
is not getting
I'm
out.
with you on that
I think we're
too.
talking about adjusting what our contribution is,
Correct.
so that it's more in relation to what our needs are.
Right, I get it, but suppose they say no. I'm gonna say,
We
Hey, let's
stay.
pay it.
We stay. Let's pay it.
But you don't
but
know
I
until-
get it, but I get it.
But you
Doesn't
don't know
hurt to
until you ask.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
And I think that's all I had for finance.
Wow.
Any questions on that?
Nope.
It's a lot, busy month.
All right. Moving on to public comment. Christiane Zavino, 350 Howard Street.
Okay, just have to bear with me.
Sorry, this is eating into your 3
Do you
minutes.
need help?
No. That's the hard part. Mayor Goldsmith, excuse me, Christiane Zavino, 350 Howard Street, Urbana. Mayor Goldsmith and council members. In a small community like Urbana, providing information about what the governing body is doing is an important part of the governing body's job. That information, given the lack of reporting which occurs via the press, is important because it helps citizens understand how the governing body is utilizing their tax dollars and utility fees to meet the community's needs. Transparency is a word which has been used by this council on numerous occasions, and I hope it's a value that you are serious about, because solid information about town government is in short supply unless you attend the meeting or go online and read the minutes and the agenda packets. With that said, I am pleased to see that the council is approving minutes dating back to July 2024 in tonight's meeting. I understand the previous clerk managed over the 3 months since her resignation to complete this task. I am disappointed to know that she was paid to do this, despite a council member expressing an objection. Why was the clerk paid for work she should have done during her employment? As a taxpayer, I object to this money being spent twice. How did the town find itself in this position, and who is responsible for monitoring the timely completion of the council's minutes? This, in addition to the significant amount of funds outstanding due to unpaid water bills covered in a private public discussion at this governing body, is troubling. However, I have seen in the treasurer's report tonight's agenda packet, which shows a substantial increase in collections, which is terrific. What is the plan to prevent this from happening again, particularly when water rates could be raised to pay more for long-deferred capital improvements? Government, because of its mission and purpose, cannot operate the same as a business. However, it can be managed in a business-like fashion, ensuring revenues are collected in a timely fashion and records maintained so citizens can get a sense of what is going on. I look forward to learning more about what you will put forth in place to ensure occurrences like these do not happen again on your watch. Thank you.
Thank you, Christie.
Thank you. Council comment? Okay. All right. Thank you, Christie. Unfinished business, Friends of Urbana Memorandum of Understanding.
The holidays did supply a little downtime. I was able to catch up on an item of unfinished business. Back in April, it was reported that meetings with the Friends of Urbana turned up an undocumented understanding that the Friends of Urbana serve as an advisory role to the council pertaining to the historic Scottish Factor store serving as the Urbana Museum and Visitor Center. All parties desire formalizing the understanding with a memorandum of understanding. That's what was before you in April. Then following was some language that was used as provided by the Friends of Urbana And language was put into a draft MOU, which you have before you this evening, that addresses council's expectations. The MOU has been reviewed by the town's attorney and the leading members of the Friends of Urbana. The fiscal impact is pretty much unknown, but some staff time to coordinate the report appearances. So the MOU has them appearing quarterly to talk about what they're doing at the museum and anything to support the museum. The staff recommendation is the documentation is crucial to long-term understanding of relationships, commitment, and authority. Such a document should be adopted to establish the role of the Friends of Urbana as advisors to the council pertaining to the historic Scottish Factor store serving as the museum and visitor center. The document proposed accomplishes that and also requires a regular reporting by the Friends as well as funding commitment by the town. The council action requested is to adopt the MOU. You have a sample motion. The couple of the representatives of the Friends, I approached them about being here tonight. They have commitments or they're out of town, but they're happy with the document as you have it before you. I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have at this time.
I do have a question. I remember back when they came and we talked, that we had asked that any improvements made that we were notified prior so we would know what they were doing to the building. And that hasn't happened, and that's not in this.
I would,
Does it not need to be in the memorandum of understanding? Because that's,
personally, I don't think so, because you'll have that quarterly opportunity with them here to say, ask that question, have you done any changes to the building? Or they could say, what we're proposing to do is change the building in some way, shape, or form.
okay.
I mean, that would
Okay.
be the opportunity to have a regular interaction with them.
Okay. Because like I said, they said they would tell us, and then they did stuff that we didn't know. That's why I was
Does
asking.
that have a fiscal, an unknown fiscal impact to the town?
I don't believe what they did
I
we
don't.
paid for.
I
We
don't.
don't,
yeah.
we didn't get a bill for that.
I think they did it from their own
From their-
resources.
Yes, from
Yeah.
what they collected. But
Volunteer.
I mean, it doesn't matter if they paid for it or we paid for it. We still need to know what's happening because it's our property.
The volunteer labor to
Okay.
install the shelves and the
And
cabinets.
build them and
think
stuff. I
that
mean, they
was the
did a
thing.
nice job. They did a very nice job, but it was just not known until it was happening.
We still have ties to the APVA in regards to that building. It wasn't an,
Preservation,
I-
Virginia.
Yeah, I believe so, because they've been there.
wasn't an outright gift, I don't think. I think there were stipulations that went with it.
I,
like they would-
I'm sure there were, and probably one of those stipulations, as I was alluding to earlier, was the historic resources have it as a perpetual easement
Okay.
on the property.
Yeah, I got you.
Now, I was there when they did this most recent visit, and they saw where the cabinets had been put in place and everything. Didn't really seem to faze them.
Didn't pay them.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have a problem with this. You want me to make a motion? Something I need to read?
It's right here, Larry,
Okay.
on the bottom.
I move to adopt a memorandum of understanding before us this evening between the town of Urbana and Friends of Urbana concerning the historic Scottish Factor store serving as the Urbana Museum and Visitor Center.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? This one can be a voice vote, right?
Roll call vote.
Roll call.
Roll call vote? Okay. We'll start at the other end. Robbie?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
I say yes. Alana?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
And Marjorie?
Yes.
All right. That passes. All right. Next is new business, the FOIA. Is that you, Christine?
Council last updated the FOIA policy in 2021, and since that time, a couple of things have changed, so we just need to update our policy. Some changes to the draft policy that I gave you include just some basic formatting and verbiage, the addition of wet signatures to the list of commonly exempted records, an updated cost section that includes the new verbiage in FOIA that says, prior to conducting a search for records, the public body shall notify the requester in writing that the public body may make reasonable charges, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then we also have to ask, before we do any searching, we have to ask, do they want an estimate? And then we also have to have a schedule that explains how the charges are assessed and the current fee. And then I also created a totally optional request form just to help people know what information we need in order to find the records that they're looking for. Does anyone have any questions?
No.
Are these fairly standard costs? Is this like coming out of a,
The cost is supposed to be the actual cost.
Yeah.
Yes.
There is no standard.
okay.
Yeah, so the hourly fee is what you pay me.
Okay.
That's the
And-
benefits, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I guess I should probably specify that in there.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so I'll add
Employees
that to
When
their,
the public asks for information that
Did they
the
get
town
charged?
pays for it?
Whoever they're requesting it from can charge the person who's requesting.
Yeah, if I come in and I ask for,
That discourages the public from coming in and doing it, doesn't it? That's probably what this is all about, I guess.
Well,
one of the things is that
complex.
the first 30 minutes, we don't charge anything for, and the majority of FOIA requests take less than 30 minutes.
Yes.
It's when somebody comes in and they want like every email
Something unreasonable.
for the last
Yeah,
20
pretty
years.
much, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I got you, I got you.
Mr. Tuning,
Yes,
if I
ma'am.
can just address your comment. It is kind of like a zoning fee where a person pays for a cost to cover the service that they get. It's not intended to discourage people. Because you look at it one way, if the town absorbs the cost, then all of the taxpayers end up paying for a service that an individual is using. So I don't want there to be any perception that we're trying to discourage
But it
anyone.
may end up saving money for the entire community. If what they say, if they present a FOIA and they are correct in regards to it in some manner of speaking, it could actually save the community money. No?
No, most,
Maybe this is a journalist thing.
The purpose of the FOIA request, I think, is what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah. and
Okay.
30 minutes is a pretty generous,
I agree with you. I think you're
latitude.
fine on that one.
Yeah,
That
most
wasn't
places-
said in the beginning, and so
Yeah,
I was
it's like-
thinking
Yeah.
just you walk in and you charge.
The other thing that I would like to share is that increasingly, the majority of FOIA requests come from businesses who want the
Yes, ma'am.
information and they want to make money off of it.
I got you.
So there's that.
So
Yeah.
that 30-minute thing is really directed to probably not, like somebody like myself walking in and wanting to know just something specifically,
Yes.
right,
not wanting to make any money off the town or gain any advantages in any matter of speaking.
Yeah.
right.
I just want to make it perfectly clear. No intention to discourage anyone. Ms. Branch is just updating the policy so that everybody knows it's pretty standard. And I applaud her efforts.
Well,
So,
thank you. And,
Absolutely.
thank you.
And the point of my questions fits into the same kind of thing you're talking about, and that is that the fee structure that we're doing would be a fairly common structure for how that's done. Part of it, somebody comes in and they want a 6-page document. It seems kind of silly for us to charge them a dime.
Well, they get charged $26 plus,
Well,
Or-
that if it's a half an hour.
right,
So then that gets into, there's a sense of, I understand if somebody comes in and they want something that's gonna take 4 hours and 200 pages,
it makes sense. It just seems a little, it seems like it's gonna be a pain in Michelle's rear end to charge a dime and record it and put it into something. And so, I'm trying to balance that in my head of like creating that
It's
monster
more
that
than
I'm
a
talking
dime, though, because 1 to 4 pages is no charge. It's when it's 5+ pages, that's when a fee accrues.
So you got a half hour and 1 to 4 pages with no fee.
Yeah.
That doesn't even cover the paper.
Yes, but if
No, it
somebody
doesn't
comes
even
in,
cover the
if somebody
paper.
comes in and it takes 40 minutes and it's 10 pages long,
Then
well,
they
at
pay
least
for
that's
the-
$30, but that's,
Yeah, I mean, they
Right.
pay for the.
okay.
Yeah. One thing I want to add, though, and the General Assembly has tried to address this, I think, last year, not this year, last year, and then the year before, is that some localities are using costs as a way of chilling people's requests
Sure.
for information. And some of the localities that have done that have made, in my opinion, very poor decisions. One of the biggest ones that comes to mind was Loudoun County Schools. They were having a lot of issues with sexual assaults at school. And a mother of a girl who went to the high school, who also happened to be an attorney, requested information about this. And I believe she was told that it would cost $36,000 to provide her with a response. I mean, that's just insane, you know, it, I would never say that we should do something like that. And if there is some really big request and it is a large amount of money, I usually do recommend that even though it's the actual cost, that they cut it down, because it's just a bad look, you know?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
There was a fee schedule in place previously, right? This is just an update of the fee.
No.
There was no fee
No.
schedule.
No, there was just the statement saying that, out of code saying that we could charge.
Okay.
The directed to have the actual cost there, is new since 21. So you have to, you can't just say, we're gonna charge you staff time and we're gonna charge you for copies, you have to say
This kind
how
of prevents what
much.
she was just saying, is that we
Right,
come up with
right.
crazy fees.
Where did we come up with these fees, though? 3 cents per page?
It's the actual cost. It's ink, toner,
You take the
paper.
ink,
Is
divide.
that literally what it is?
Yes.
Okay, so when FedEx charges you for those, they charge you 18 cents for each of those pages.
That's not the actual cost.
That's,
No.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
And you can, if you want to change like the number of pages that are free, you know, you can do that.
I mean, that would be my tendency to not, you know, again, I'm also thinking of the treasurer, of having to log 50 cents here and 50 cents there.
We really, correct me if I'm wrong, we really do not receive a lot of FOIA requests. The ones that come through are the ones that wanna know our salaries, the right to know for the governmental sites.
Right, and the
Right.
majority of them want electronic records. Very few people want copies anymore. But like if somebody wanted to come in and wanted copies of, let's say, for example, all of those minutes that were in your packet, which was 100 and some pages,
Right.
you
Right, I
know.
could see
You
charging
might
for
charge them a
that.
couple of dollars.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
absolutely.
so this would cover your retrieving electronic records too? It just wouldn't have
Yes.
the pages? And that would be at the hourly rate?
If it takes more than half an hour.
If it takes
yeah.
more than half an hour, okay.
And it very rarely takes more than half an hour. Usually, the only time it takes more than that is if someone's asked for tons of emails, because I would have to read every single one of them to make sure there's no confidential information in them,
I would redact that.
so.
It's a lot of work.
We have to approve this?
Yeah, you would
Yes.
have to approve the resolution, and then this would replace what's on the website right now.
Well, there's not a sample motion here, but I would say I'd make a motion
Actually, there is.
to,
I move to adopt Resolution 2025-004, updating the town of Urbana's FOIA policy and establishing a written cost charge schedule.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion?
Nope.
All right,
You need a vote.
that's a roll call vote, correct?
Yes,
All right,
resolution.
go back down to Robbie Wilson.
Yes.
Mary Hanson.
Yes.
Bill Goldsmith says yes. Alana Courtney.
Yes.
Larry Chuney.
No.
And Marjorie Austin.
Yes.
Okay.
Journalist.
Thank you.
All right. Public comment two. Anybody sign up for the?
I didn't get yours done. Sorry. But I would like to say something, if that's okay.
Step up to the microphone.
I'm Dorothy Dreyer, Drayer. I live at 410 Obert Street with my husband Don. I'm here tonight to beat a dead horse. We have lived in this town for almost 10 years. And in 10 years, we have tried and tried and tried and tried to get something done about Charlie Bass across the street. His vehicles, he was to have them all registered by the end of October. We've heard nothing about that. He's supposed to be cleaning up his yard. We've heard nothing about that. I mean, he's supposed to have lost his business license, and yet he is still conducting business in the town. When are we going to get some answers and some satisfaction? I hear, well, it's been going on for so long now that we can't do anything about it. Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, if I was speeding down Rappahannock Avenue every day and the cop pulls me over and I said, well, I've been doing it for 15 years. Nobody's ever said anything to me before. Does that make it right? I don't think so. So we are extremely frustrated. And, you know, so now he's leaving his lights on his wrecker sometimes at night, and so the flashing lights are flashing in our bedroom window. Is it something to call the cops over? I like to say no. We have a difference of opinion. His dogs run free all over the place. Talk to people on the street. Oh, I live on Ober Street. Oh, we can't walk down there because Charlie Bass's dogs bite us. I mean, when is it going to stop? When? That's all I have to say.
Mr. Mayor, Ms. Dreyer has been looking at me, so I think she wants me to respond. May I?
Yes. Yes.
So the
I was
dogs is
gonna-
a Middlesex County animal control issue. You call them. We don't do any of that. The reason that enforcement against him is difficult is that for many years, he has been issued a business license by the town. And it would appear that in some instances zoning knew about it and zoning approved it also. And so if I take him to court and I say, Your Honor, he's a zoning violation, and then Mr. Bass says, well, they gave me a business license and, you know, proved it for 12 years, how come now it's a big deal? That is not a really strong case. And so he is no longer being issued a business license. And what staff has been doing is trying to meet with him and talk to him, because I believe that when we go to court, and I do think it will end up there, the court is going to want to know, given the history, what we tried to do to work with him. And because when you go to court and you're the government, you go in one leg down. They never like the government. The courts are generally favorable to the people up against the government, and if the government hasn't done everything exactly right, that will significantly go against us. And so we would like to try to work with Mr. Bass. But it sounds like I didn't hear about the flashing lights. That's
Why? Because I never complained about it, because, you know, by the time you get going in your day, and
Could you video the flashing lights?
I can.
Okay, that would be great.
I mean, he regularly leaves the truck lights on, but not always the flashing lights. Fortunately not any siren that might go along with it.
If you can video the siren, that'd be great too.
Well, I have to go to the siren.
Okay.
But
But I drive by there almost every time or every other time when I come to Urbana, and have been monitoring it for a long, long time.
okay.
I just want us to put together a case that we think will be successful, because with that type of situation, if we go to court and lose, it will make it 10 times worse for the neighbors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because the neighbors are really suffering from that. Everybody,
Yeah.
there, and it's not fair to them.
So
I don't want you to think you've been ignored.
it really feels that way. I'm not gonna lie. It really, really does feel that way.
I bet it does.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for your aggravation.
I know, I'm sorry too.
It's terrible.
Is there any way of keeping the dryers up to date on what is happening? I mean, the dryers, I'm sorry. The dryers. On up to date on what's happening so that they don't feel like this and have to come in. And she was,
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
because
All right,
Miss
yeah,
Dreyer
we'll do
was
that.
pretty upset when she went to speak. So we don't need a stroke patient in here.
That's fine.
Well, so what's the deal on the license plate? He doesn't, I mean, everybody else has to register all their cars. and-
That would be, again, a Middlesex County Sheriff's Office issue in terms of that.
Cause I think he's got 19 vehicles on that property.
Jeez.
Are they are you talking about the inoperable ones or the ones he's
No,
fixing?
not inoperable. But he's got like 4 boats. He's got that huge RV that leaks, so he has this big, and he never uses it. If he used it, I have an RV. We use ours all the time. He has a tarp over top of it because it leaks. He has tarps over his Mercedes because they leak. No license plate on them, nothing. There's a big old Cadillac limo sitting there. And like I said, I think he's got four boats and never uses them. They're not used, they're not functional.
Can I get your cell phone number after the meeting?
Sure.
Okay,
All right.
thanks.
So it's nightmarish.
Yeah.
So,
And the dogs bite?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really do need to call animal control for that.
It hasn't bitten me, he's afraid of me. I tell him to go home and go sleep.
Surprise, surprise.
But you never know
But
when a
that
dog
dog-
will bite.
right.
He did have a dog that attacked both of our dogs. Our dogs were on leashes, Don had
So
them.
can you tell?
The dog came out was a pit bull. He attacked our dogs. Unfortunately, his dog got the worst end of it.
We called the police.
But we did call the police and that dog has been removed. But so many people I talked to, oh, we would love to walk down Everett Street, but we can't. We've been told not to walk down there because the black dog bites people.
So in all the times I've driven by, I've never seen any dogs.
It's 5.
5.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them
And
down there. I wasn't
where
sure
do
how
they
many.
live? In the backyard?
They live in a chain link enclosure behind his house. When he's home, he lets them in the house. There is I have not seen it, so this is hearsay, that there's a dog door and those dogs are outside all the time, but they can come and go as they please in and out of the house. So you can just picture what
Do they bark?
Oh, constantly.
when he's
Day, night, all the time.
When it's cold, he leaves them outside when he's gone.
But they have access to the house. They do have access to the house mornings.
Boy.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes in the middle of the night, there's bark, 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 bark. But I can almost handle that. But biting people, especially people on bikes. But again, it hasn't attacked me, so I couldn't be the one to say. it
Right.
happened.
All right.
Okay, well, check.
All right. Moving on.
But, Mr. Mayor, I know that there's a lot of interest in this topic, and that's why I went into.
Yeah, no, that's
detail.
that's
Yes,
fine.
thank you.
I mean, this purge needed to occur.
Yes.
Yes.
The other thing is that he has all these lean-tos up against Pat and Patty Gould's fence causing their fence to collapse. The fence is on their
Oh.
property. They choose not to make a big deal out of it, but it's full of junk. It's full of old sofas that have been sitting there. It's just gross. He's got trash on the curb all the time. The tarp off the RV's been sitting there for 3 weeks now. He thinks the trash guy's gonna pick it up. I doubt that's gonna happen.
Not if it's not in a bag.
Nope.
Yep.
All right.
Okay,
This has been
thank
going on
you.
for a long time.
So that's public comment number 2.
15.
And we're not going into closed session. And so I guess I can entertain a
Motion to adjourn.
Wow.
All right.
Is anybody going to second
I'll
that?
second.
Thanks.
Aye.